Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's session where we're actually going to look at health life science data sets in Snowflake and talk about how Immuta can help protect those data sets. So a little background if you don't know about Immuta. Immuta is a data access and security platform that was born out of the US intelligence community. Our goal at Immuta is to make sure that data is easily accessible, but the policies around that data should be understandable, maintainable, and scalable as well. And so the way that we orchestrate and control policy allow you to greatly reduce the number of policies you have to create in your organization. So there's really three main things in Immuta we're going to cover today. First is how our Discover capability will help you find what type of data you have. The second is our Protect part of our platform that allows you to actually build policy saying who gets access to tables, and when they get access, what do they see? And then the third component is our Monitor capability that helps you provide auditing and tracking of who's accessing data for what reason. And so with that, we're going to jump right in and get access to our Snowflake table and start looking at how Immuta can protect the policy. So switching over to my desktop here, you will see I have a screen pulled up where I've logged into Snowsite inside of Snowflake, and we're going to take a look at one of our medical data sets. It's a representative sample to see how this actually is going to be protected by Immuta going through the three stages of the product. So here's the base table you're looking at. It's a bunch of fake information, but you can see there's a lot of sensitive health information in this data set. And part of what we're going to do today is we're going to go through and show you how Immuta will protect this and how easy it is to actually build a policy that's understandable in Snowflake. And so let's go ahead and just dive right in. So the first thing I had mentioned is the Discover piece of Immuta. So there's been some technical stuff that's gone on in the background here. I've actually set up an integration with Snowflake telling Immuta to protect this table. And all that, I'll put a link in the description of the video to show you how you set that up. But once you've done that, you get a really nice ability to search your data inside of Immuta. So what does that actually look like? Well, for example, I want to go find this medical table. So you can see I can search by the type of name that is contained within the table name. I can also search for the contents of that table, right? I could search for PHI, PII, any of the classifiers that Immuta's Discover product has actually gone out and determined. And so here's an example of this medical table we were just looking at in Snowflake and Immuta. You can see there's some information here. I've actually created some tags on the table level that allow you to quickly figure out where your data is living. The second thing I want to show is the data dictionary. And this is part of our Monitor product or our Discover product that allows you to quickly find what type of information you have in your organization. And so you can see there's a bunch of tags here, and you actually can go in and apply tags on your own or programmatically. We can pull them out of Snowflake. But in this case, Immuta's actually gone out and run something called sensitive data discovery, where we've actually classified PHI, PII, social security number, driver's licenses, various other things that we can look for in the data set. And so once this has been done, this is where Immuta really starts helping you build policy to control access and what data people can actually see in the organization. And so that jumps into the second part of the product where we can actually build a policy. And so, for example, I can just search for this healthcare policy I've already built, and we can go through and actually turn this policy on and then walk through what it's actually going to do in your environment. So here's an example of our policy editor. And one nice thing about Immuta is we make it very easy for people to come in here and build policy. So for example, this little UI you see in our policy editor window allows users who might be data governance users, data stewards, to actually come in here and build a policy in a way that's understandable. So in this case, I'm going to build two conditions in this policy. The first one, I'm just going to mask any PII or PHI data I find using hashing for everyone. And the second thing I'm going to build is I want to do a format preserving masking policy on a social security number field, right? So we don't want people to see the social, but maybe there's a use case where we need to keep the format consistent with the social security number for some of our ETL jobs. Maybe we're needing to do some joins, whatever it may be. We support a bunch of different masking types, which again, I'll put some links into the description below. And so now that I've built this policy, what I want to say is basically how do we apply it? So there's a lot of ways you can apply this policy in Immuta. The first thing I'm going to show you is how we can do it based on classifications. So earlier I showed you I had manually added a tag that had this HLS medical tag. But what you can do here as well is I could say anytime I find PHI, I want this policy to apply, so it'll work across any data set that you've registered in Immuta that contains PHI. And so now this one policy has the potential to control access to all of your different tables in the organization. And so After that policy's been built, we can actually go back into Snowflake now. And what we've done behind the scenes is Immuta will have orchestrated and created native Snowflake masking policies here behind the scenes. So now we're just orchestrating and controlling the native patterns you have inside of Snowflake instead of making you go through a proxy and repoint all of your tooling and not being able to use Snowpark or any of these different, Snowflake specific technologies. Now users aren't even aware Immuta's in the mix. So if I go back into Snowflake now and let's just rerun my query here against the base table, you'll see what we've done is we've actually enforced policy based on the classifications we showed earlier in Immuta. So you can see now we're masking all of those different columns that were classified as PHI or PII, and you can also see the social security number if we scroll over. Still looks like a social security number. And so what we've done here is we've actually randomized the values, but we've kept the format the same for the specific column. And just to show how this actually has worked, if I go run a query for a specific user, I've actually figured out who this user was ahead of time before I turn the policy on, and I've actually hard-coded their former social security number in here. So when we go look over at the social security number field, we can actually look at the pre-masked social security number and then look at what we did after we turned on the masking. So again, that pre-masked social is just a hard-coded string value that I put in my projection list on the query, and you can see how Immuta is actually protecting that by randomizing the value here. Now, the nice thing with Immuta is there are a lot of use cases where you need to, mask data like this where you can't see social, but you want to make sure that if we mask a social security for, person 1 and table 1, if person table 2, we need to have the same social security to join. Even if it's masked, we don't care, right? We just need some key that we can join on. Immuta provides the functionality to allow you to do mass joins in the product. And so what that means is that you can actually allow users to join on this using a project in Immuta. I'll have another video directly tied to projects, but I'll put a link in the description on how you can enable mass joins on hashed values. This is a quick overview of the protect part of the product. So remember that really easy to understand policy we just looked at, just applied in Snowflake. And now what I want to do is show you the audit. So we actually keep track of all these different policies that we actually create and manage. So you can actually go quickly see how all of this has been accessed and what queries have been run against the tables. And Immuta will track all of these changes for you. Now, the nice thing as well is that if you have people who are owners of this data set, they can actually go look at their medical data table. And if they look at the policy page, they can quickly understand what policy is actually being created here. And again, if you were to do this in Snowflake, you can do this, but you'll have to parse out the SQL logic and the role membership and all of those different things that are currently applying to this table. With Immuta, we put it all in a central place, and you can actually see how the policy has changed, right? So I've added some columns here that I wanted to mask because I didn't have a policy previously assigned to this. And so users are very quickly able to come in, monitor what changes were done to their tables, and also make sure they're enforcing policy in the most appropriate way. So that was a quick demo video for Health Life Sciences with Immuta. I will again put some more description stuff in the description to help you get some more information about Immuta. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at our website. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good rest of your day.